We stood together watching two uniformed policemen hurry into the Hamilton house. "Something must have happened," she said. "I hope it's nothing serious," I said. Cars continued to arrive. They contained policemen, both in uniform and in plain clothes, and the entire neighborhood was pouring into the street. A word spread among the people gathered in groups, a word we could hear all the way to our porch. The word was murder. "We ought to tell the police what we saw," Margaret said to me in a hoarse whisper. "We didn't see anything much." "Still, it's our duty to tell them." "All right, I'll do it," I said. "You stay here." I crossed the street. A uniformed cop stopped me on the opposite sidewalk. "If what I hear is true, I think I have some information," I said. "Was somebody really killed?" "It was Mrs. Hamilton. Who are you, sir?" "I'm Dr. Irwin McKay. I live in that house across the street." He led me up the walk to the front door and said to wait there, and went inside. Pretty soon he reappeared with a burly man in a slouch hat. "This is Dr. McKay," the cop said, and returned to his post on the sidewalk. The other man said, "I'm Detective Breen," and put out his hand after I'd shaken it. I told him about the television repairman and how Arnold Hamilton had suddenly come home. "Yes, we know," Detective Breen said. He was sucking a curved pipe, the way a child would a lollipop. "Mr. Hamilton told us about him, but he doesn't know his name. He can't think of the name of the company he works for. It's Riverside TV service." "Thanks a lot, Dr. McKay. This will save a lot of trouble locating him." "Glad I could help," I said, but I didn't leave. Putting a match to his pipe, the detective studied me lazily. The entire street was watching us. I began to feel self-conscious. I drew in my breath and asked, "Has he confessed?" "Mr. Hamilton? No. He insists it was the TV man." "At least an hour passed after he'd driven away, before the police came," I said. "Did you know that?" "No, we didn't. Interesting." He nodded to himself. "Would you mind coming with me, Dr. McKay?" I had no idea why he wanted me in there, but of course I went. The house had a center hall. Through an open door on the left, I could look into a kind of study. The television set stood against the wall, and on a sofa at the opposite wall, Arnold Hamilton sat. His face was in his hands. The way his sparse hair was plastered sideways on his scalp to cover as much area as possible struck me as particularly pathetic. He didn't look up. A motionless, silent detective stood near him. We went up the hall a little way and turned through an arched doorway into the bedroom. 3 men in plain clothes and 1 in uniform were in there, and Norma Hamilton. She was grotesque in death. In falling, one of her arms had hooked over the post at the front of the bed. She hung there, just her toes touching the floor. Blood covered her head and face and spattered the beige carpet. Not far from her right hand was what must have done it, since some blood was on it, a slender, off-white, earthenware flower vase. The only aura emanating from her now was that of death. I was quite shaken. "The coroner's on the way here," Breen was saying to me, "but he's not a doctor. We've sent for Dr. Morgenstern, who usually comes in a homicide, but he happens to be out on a call. I'd appreciate it, Dr. McKay, if you would make a preliminary examination to determine how long she's been dead. Time is important, as you—" "But I'm not a physician," I broke in. "You're not?" "I'm a dentist." Somebody in the room laughed softly. "I see." Breen managed to keep himself from looking foolish. "Sorry to have troubled you." He conducted me out of the house. As we passed the television room, I had another look at Arnold Hamilton on the sofa. He had raised his head, but wasn't looking at anything. Breen opened the front door and said, "I'd like to speak to you and your wife, Dr. McKay," and closed the door behind me. Neighbors converged on me when I reached the street. I told them what I had seen.